Nine Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows. The Nine Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows is a book that featured in the movie The Ninth Gate. The film's summary. The Nine Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows was a mystical rare book that was originally written in the 17th century by the author Aristide Tortia, who was believed to have been the devil's apprentice and the only known mortal to have read the Delomelanocon. Through this, he decided to make an earthly copy that was stated to have been co-authored by Lucifer, the Prince of Darkness himself. At least 3 copies of the manuscript were written before Tortia was uncovered for heresy and burnt at the stake for his witchcraft. However, the 3 books survived the centuries and became the focus of the occult, with a satanic cult forming around it, calling itself the Order of the Silver Serpent. It was believed that any copy of the book had the potential of calling upon Lucifer himself to the mortal plane, though only a few were aware of the true nature of the books. Each of the 3 books were identical, though there were discrepancies, namely in the engraved pictures. Some of the images were different in each book, and a signature was present in different pattern, either as at for Aristide Tortia or LCF for Lucifer. It was believed that by taking the 9 engraved pictures, one could incant a ritual designed to bring forth the devil himself through the 9th gate, with those taking part in the act being made invulnerable to mortal means. In the centuries that followed, the Order of the Silver Serpent always kept at least 1 copy of the book for themselves for their cult activities. Initially, it was a witches' coven that worshipped the devil, but as the years went by, it became a secret society and social group for millionaires and celebrities who attributed their good fortune to their membership in the cult. By the 20th century, the 3 copies managed to survive the centuries, with one being present with Baroness Kessler, who was in Paris. The other was with Victor Fargas, who was a collector of the occult in Spain, and the last was in the Cenzio Brothers bookstore in Toledo. Baroness Kessler at the time was a member of the Order of the Silver Serpent and used her copy during the group's rituals. However, the order degenerated into one where sexual desires and carnal relations were pursued, which detested Kessler, who left the group and took her copy with her. In order to secure another copy, Liana Tefler, a devil worshipper, had married her millionaire husband Andrew Tefler to use his wealth to restore her family's prestige. She also used the money to buy one of the copies of the book that was in the Cenzia Brothers bookstore and used it in her cult's rituals. When Andrew Tefler learned of this, he killed himself, but not before selling the book to Boris Balkan. Balkan in turn attempted to use his new purchased item to bring forth Lucifer himself, but the rituals failed. Thus, he suspected that since there were 3 copies, then 2 might be a forgery, with only one being the real version. In order to ascertain this fact, he hired a rare book dealer by the name of Dean Corso and tasked him with verifying this finding. Being paid a considerable sum of money to accomplish this feat, despite Liana Tefler's attempts at reacquiring it and the number of deaths involved. Corso initially believed that Andrew Tefler bought the book, but after traveling to Spain to meet the Cenzia brothers, he learnt that it was at the urging of his wife. Following that, he went to Toledo in order to consult the Fargas collection and reported discrepancies to Balkan, who in turn wanted the Fargas copy at any cost. Sometime later, Corso learnt that Fargas had been murdered, drowned in his own fountain, and his book burnt, though the engravings were ripped out. With this being a dead end, Corso took what research he had gathered and went to Paris to meet Baroness Kessler. When she learned of his employment by Boris Balkan, she refused to give him access to the book. However, Corso managed to convince her to give him access to her copy by highlighting the earlier discrepancies he had discovered. This shocked Kessler, who had become a devoted follower of the occult and Lucifer, whereupon she gave him permission to proceed with his study. In order to protect Balkan's copy, he hid it in his hotel apartment suite. Corso continued his study of the Kessler collection, where he highlighted even more discrepancies between the book, but he was knocked out. When he awoke, he found the Baroness murdered and her collection in flames, which included her copy of the book. Similar to the Fargas collection, the engravings were also ripped out from the manuscript by whoever conducted the act. When he returned to his hotel suite, he learnt that someone had broken in and taken the Balkan copy. Knowing that Boris Balkan was capable of murder for the book, Dean Corso decided to track the culprit and learnt it was Liana Tefler who had done so and had gone to her chateau in Paris, where the Order of the Silver Serpent congregated on the anniversary of Tortia's death. He broke in but was caught initially, but managed to escape. Just as Liana was reciting from the book, Boris Balkan broke in and murdered Liana Tefler for it. Dean Corso tracked Balkan down to an isolated keep and concluded that Boris had murdered both Fargas and Kessler for their copies in order to open the Nine Gates. This was because Boris Balkan believed himself to be a true worshipper of Lucifer, and deep beneath the keep, he placed the engravings in a select pattern. Thinking he had completed the ritual with a helpless Corso to watch, Balkan claimed he was now invincible and poured flame on himself to demonstrate that he could feel no pain. However, the fires consumed him, and he was in agony, forcing Corso to kill him. Later, Dean Corso learnt from a mysterious young woman who had been helping him that the ninth engraving was a forgery, which was why the ritual failed. Curious over the entire incident, Corso decided to visit the Cinzia Brothers bookstore, but it had been sold and renovated by new people. As they moved a large bookshelf where a page suddenly fell and was revealed to be the original engraving that was in the possession of the Cinzia Brothers. Taking the page along with the accumulated pages, Corso returned to the remote keep where he performed the ritual and seemingly entered into the ninth gate. Whether Corso met Lucifer remains unknown.